This week, we're reflecting on the passing of legendary director Rob Reiner, the man behind The Princess Bride, one of the most beloved films of all time. For wrestling fans, The Princess Bride holds a special place in our hearts because it gave us Andre the Giant in his most iconic acting role as Fezzik, the gentle giant. It was a performance that showed a different side of Andre, not just the larger than life wrestler, but the warm, funny, and deeply human character that audiences still cherish nearly 4 decades later. Tonight, we'll be exploring the broader topic of wrestlers in film, their performances, their impact, and how they've crossed over from the ring to the big screen. And to help us do that, we're honored to welcome Chris Owens, the foremost Andre the Giant historian whose collection and knowledge of Andre's life and career have kept his legacy alive for fans around the world. Chris, welcome back to the show, brother. We're excited to have you back with us. How you been?
Good. It's my pleasure to be back with you guys. Been doing great and looking forward to talking to you guys about Andre.
Love it. This is one of my favorite movies. I'll just say it right off the bat. One of my first dates with my wife was actually taking her to a movie theater to watch the movie in like 2010, as they do with older movies. So it holds a special place in my heart for sure. I gotta think, Chris, probably the same for you. I mean, at the time you were probably teenage, give or take. Also a wrestling fan, probably an Andre fan at that point. What did it mean to you when that movie came out in 1987?
Well, I remember it vividly. I remember waiting for it to be released in the movie theater in my hometown. I was 14 years old, and I think I went and watched the matinee on a Sunday. Loved it. Loved the movie, and because I wasn't sure how much he was going to be featured in the film. We'd seen some trailers, some teasers going into it, but he was one of the featured characters in there, and I thought he portrayed the giant better than anybody else they could have casted for that.
How did he get that role? I mean, he had to have been on somebody's radar at some point. Do you know the backstory of how he came to be Fezzik and got cast in that role?
So the best I could surmise was that any time, especially at that time, wrestlers were going to cross over to mainstream media, the production company would have to go through World Wrestling Federation.
Mhm.
At the time, there was a lady by the name of Donna Dees who was working in the office. She would have coordinated Andre's contract. The timing, she worked with Rob and his company to, facilitate that process, carve out the time, and that's kind of how they reached Andre.
How did Reiner work with Andre's, given his physical limitations at the time? Last time you were on with us, you did a good job of talking to us about how Andre was really kind of struggling by this point. By 1986, his body had really started to kind of let him down a little bit. How did the director work with him on, work with him during the course of the film to, allow him to do what he wanted him to do there?
Yeah, great question. And timing was everything with this role. We talked last time about how his body was starting to slow down going into 85 and WrestleMania 2 at 86. So timeline wise, he wrapped up with the WWF at WrestleMania 2, April 7th, 1986. He had already signed on with Inoki to do a 2-month tour of New Japan. So that took him through like June of 86. He finally had some time designated to be off in July. He had one match, which was in Graz, Austria against Otto Vance. It was a big match at the time, but Andre was moving really slow and he knew he needed some time off. So they had actually reached out to WWF about Andre playing this role probably in June. And he signed the contract in July of 86. And when he came back to the WWF, the fans remember he came in as the Machines. So him and Bill Eadie worked under masks up until I think it was the big event in Toronto in August. That was Andre's last match. The day after that match, he flew to London and he was there from September till December to film. And Rob worked with them during that time. A lot of it was, sitting around for his role. And then at times, being active as much as he could. They did a stunt double, of course, with some of the scenes. But from all accounts, Andre was, ready. He was set for the character when he showed up in London, and got along great with the cast.
Andre did some, maybe they're not stunts so much, but at one point he has Carrie Elwes on his back and ramming him into a rock, but he's also there, you can maybe get into more detail about this, but he's catching Buttercup as she's falling through the air, but
Yeah,
they had to gimmick that up a little bit too. So
they
what were
did.
some things that you know of that he did, and how was he capable of doing them, and some things that maybe he wasn't capable of doing that they did have to call wherever you find a 7'4", 450-pound stunt double to
Yeah, yeah.
accomplish.
So going back to your scene, you mentioned the fight scene with him and Carrie Elways. So Andre did some of that, and then they used a stunt double for others. Obviously, when you saw Carrie on Andre's back to alleviate the pain on Andre's back, Carrie was on like a little moving ladder,
Ah,
so he wasn't like carrying all of Elway's weight.
wow.
And then the scenes where he was crashing him up against the rock, if you look real closely, that's the stunt double.
Got it. Got
So
it.
it helped Andre, and Rob worked around his limitations, and that was kind of well known at the time. And I'm sure most fans have seen the photos of Andre tooling around in his four-wheeler. That was helping him get around because a lot of the scenes were shot on a like a countryside hills, and Andre just couldn't get up the hills and tool around as like the other cast members.
Yeah, Buttercup falling from wherever she fell from too,
Yeah.
if I recall correctly. She's on some sort of wire system so that when she lands in Andre's arms, he doesn't have to bear her weight either.
Exactly. And I was going to show you one of the photos that came from his collection.
Oh
This
my
is
gosh.
a slight outtake from the normal photo that fans see, but
Oh,
uh,
that's awesome.
she spoke so highly of Andre. And again, she was only 20 years old at the time of the filming. So we
Right.
talk about what the film did for people's careers. This put her on the map.
That's
Look how
amazing.
joyous he looks in that picture. That is
Yeah.
so cool.
Yeah. And that was that scene where he caught her from the guide wires down to her,
That
down to
is
him.
special. That's cool.
Yeah.
Thank you
Quick
for sharing with us that with us. That's
Absolutely.
cool.
Quick thought, if he's, if you're folks think about this in context of, he's not able to put Carrie Elwes on his back for any amount of time. And then within what, less than a year, he's in the ring body slamming Hulk Hogan and taking the bumps that he can take. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know if there's an easy answer for this. The first thing that comes to mind is how. Like how, what, and I know that this isn't exactly on the Princess Bride topic, but how does Andre transition from being so careful with stunts in Hollywood to being able to get in a wrestling ring and main event WrestleMania 3?
I think several factors. Again, going back talking about timelines, when he wrapped up with The Princess Bride in December, he went to do because he knew he was going to have to go in for some back surgery.
Hmm.
So he initial set of X-rays done right at the end of that filming because they were checking for bone growth and like stenosis of the spine, which
Hmm.
he was starting to suffer from, which is why you saw his back start to curve towards the end. But Andre, at the root of everything was a real athlete, especially when he was younger. So he knew his body. He knew how to work around matches. And with the match he had with Hulk, you go back and watch that. A lot of the movements Andre did, he stayed by the ropes.
Hmm.
A lot of rest holds at times, but they made it work. And over the next several years, when Andre would work against like Jim Duggan and Randy Savage and Jake Roberts, a lot of the matches were set to kind of prevent fans from seeing Andre's shortcomings at that point.
Sure.
He could do the regular moves, but he'd always stay close to those ropes. Yeah.
Chris Fezzik is this like completely beloved character in filmography, right? Like it helped us to fall in love with Andre even more, and still to this day, Fezzik, that character is,
Mhm.
just huge in people's mind, not just wrestling fans. How did that character differ from Andre's normal persona, and how did it kind of go along with?
Good question. I've talked to several people that knew Andre pretty well, and the consensus was Fezzik pretty much was Andre, the caring nature. He was, one of the most kind-hearted individuals, trusting to a fault at times. Uh, he had a memory like a steel trap. And there was a couple scenes in the movie where they refer to Fezzik's memory of things that he could pick back up. So I think it was very close to who he was, and I think it captured him uh, overall as like this gentle giant that was always there for his friends and there, till the end.
Is that something that maybe a casting director or I don't know if how in the development process Rob Reiner is when it comes to finding actors for this movie? Is that something that he saw in Andre and was like, I gotta have him?
I think it kind of grew naturally.
Ah,
I think it's some of the producers of that film were big wrestling fans. They were very familiar with Andre. I don't know if they screen tested other giants, but
right.
Andre was a natural for the part. And one of the great pieces that I have, and I think I shared this a little bit on social media not too long ago, was this cassette tape.
Tell us again
And
about it. Yeah.
yeah, so I had heard over the years Rob Reiner had talked in interviews about, uh, I was trying to prep Andre before he showed up to the scene. I knew he didn't have time to sit down and look over the script. So Rob and his partner Andy voiced all of Andre's scenes. And the tapes actually starts off with Rob's voice saying, "Hi, Andre, this is Rob. I've got Andy alongside me. The script picks up on page 40 with you. I'm going to read your role, and Andy's going to read, your counterpart's role." And it was just amazing. Most of the dialogue stayed the same, stayed true to when it was filmed. There's a few lines that were obviously cut, but it was pretty cool being able to hear the same tape that Andre would have listened to. And I was told that Andre did listen to it quite a bit to just familiarize himself with it.
Man, what a thing to have in your collection.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
Yeah, no doubt.
yeah,
Do you have
unbelievable.
any other unique items or memorabilia from Andre's time filming The Princess Bride?
Yeah, I've been really blessed with some of the items that Andre still had in his collection. And, starting it off, it was this. And this was his contract. I don't know if you can
Wow.
see this,
Hmm.
Yeah.
that he signed. And again, this is a multi-page contract. The signatures are all over it, but signed back in July 21st, 1986. And it's real interesting talking a little bit about, the expectations of the performer, when to appear on the set. He had to show up about a month before to do 3 days of rehearsals. And this is right in the middle of his wrestling schedule. So he literally would be in New York one night, fly to London for 3 days, and Vince would have him back on the road within a day or two. It was
Wow.
crazy. Um, Another nice piece, let me see. This is a photo that was never published. And I actually gave a copy to this to Kerry when I met him last year. He said he'd never seen it before. And he asked me where I got it. I said, well, Andre had it in his collection. But it was a group shot. And he
Oh
said
my.
he remembered the exact day they were filming. That was part of the fight scene day. But
That's awesome.
Robin's in the background, Wallace Shawn here, Kerry standing right behind Andre, and Andre's right in the middle.
Unreal.
During a lunch break. He remembered that. So he
That's
loved seeing
great.
that. Um, Another shot, and for the wrestling fans, it would be curious how many picked up on this. Again, you might remember this scene when they're storming the castle, and Andre's got the cloak on. And for those wrestling fans that listen real close,
Okay, wait. Let me spoil it. Is it the I'm here for your soul?
yes. And who does he say
Tell us
that
about
to?
it.
So at the Survivor Series, when he comes back, who does he say that to? He says it to
He
Hulk.
says it to
"I'm
Hulk
here for
Hogan.
your soul." And I was watching that going, that's Fezzik.
Yes.
That's
A
amazing.
couple other pieces. Uh, so the following Christmas, they received this Christmas card on the ranch. And this is Fred Savage
Oh,
and his brother and sister. And it was sent by the Savage family out to the cast.
very
So
cool.
that's pretty cool. And then lastly, uh, this was the bag that Andre brought home from the movie premiere in Toronto.
Oh
So
my gosh.
the whole cast got this bag, and this was his that he brought home.
That's
So it's kind
That
of
amazing.
is
a cool
awesome.
bag, and it had like a press kit and things on the inside.
Sure.
So those are
Chris,
just some of the
go
items.
ahead. I was gonna wait to the end of the show here to ask you this, but it seems fit perfectly right here since we're talking about it. I noticed last time we talked, you mentioned that you were, thinking about starting up a Twitter page or an X or a artist formerly known as Twitter
Yeah,
page,
yeah.
an X page, right? And I saw that you have done that, and it's awesome. Would you tell people a little bit about that page since it kind of fits in with where we're at right now?
Yeah, so I was asked over the years about sharing more of the collection and talking a little bit about the backstory of it and, kind of the ties to Andre, how I got it, what it meant to him during different points of his career. So recently I launched Honor the Giant Treasures on X and Instagram, and had great response so far. And so, we've been sharing photographs, some artifacts from his collection. But what's even better is that you start seeing fans from around the world that maybe we haven't interacted yet with on Facebook that have their own memorabilia, their own stories, their own photographs. And so they're being able to share it on my platform for others to see as well too. Just keeping his legacy alive, which is what it's all about.
That's
Yeah, it's
amazing.
great stuff.
So glad you have that. What were some of the kind things or some of maybe the fun stories that the likes of a Rob Reiner or some of the cast, maybe we've heard things from Carrie Elwes or Billy Crystal that they had to say about Andre as they got to know him during the filming of The Princess Bride?
Couple fun stories that I've heard. Let's see. Um, Well, one story was that the scene where you see the four guys at the end riding on horses,
Hmm.
it was kind of the final scene, I believe. The night before, Andre had talked one of the cast members into driving him into Paris
Ah,
because he wanted to hit some of the bars. And he's like, the guys will go with him. They drank the entire night and drove back in the morning while the production was going on. And Rob has told the story of, hoisting this drunk giant down on this horse. And that actually happened. I've gotten
wow.
verification of it. And Andre had said that that was one day that he kind of regretted that he got Rob pretty upset because Rob had to kind of stop production and get some things in order. But that actually did occur. But Andre had a great time, and I think so did the cast member that went the cast crew that actually went with them.
I don't see how you couldn't have a great time.
Stories they could tell still this day.
Wow.
Absolutely. Yeah.
How important, Chris, was The Princess Bride in showing that wrestlers could succeed as actors?
You know, I thought about that too, because there had been other wrestlers that had appeared in TV shows for a long time and some small roles in movies. But for me, Andre at the time was one of the most recognizable wrestlers. Even if you weren't a fan, you probably knew who he was or had heard the name. Now you're seeing him on the big screen, and he came off looking really good. And they didn't poke fun at this giant. They didn't, make a mockery of him. They presented him in a good light, a good-hearted light. And if you didn't like him before, you liked him after the movie. And for me,
Yeah.
I think, over the years, you run into so many non-wrestling fans that you talk about Andre, and it's either, oh, he was the wrestler or he was the one in Princess Bride. It really cemented his name and his image in pop culture.
Chris, last thing for me here. What does the film mean to you personally as someone who's, really kind of dedicated their life to preserving Andre's legacy?
Um, I love the film, first of all. The title track, Storybook Love, was my wife and I's wedding song.
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
that's awesome.
Yeah, I wanted to have that, it was very meaningful. For
That's cool.
me, it's one of those movies I can dust off, put in the machine and watch, and I can recite the lines, but I never get tired of it. Love the movie. And any chance I get, if I run into coworkers or people I meet that have never seen the movie, I highly recommend it.
As well, you should. We all love Andre the Giant as wrestling fans for what he did in wrestling. What did the role of Fezzik do, or almost 40 years removed, what does the role of Fezzik mean for the legacy of Andre the Giant?
I think, for one, when you talk about Hollywood and his crossover appeal, he did a lot of TV shows that's, $6 Million Man.
Mhm.
People still talk about the Bigfoot episodes. With The Princess Bride, I think they were able to see another side of Andre that, his infectious laugh, his smile. When he smiled, the crowd smiled alongside of him. And like I was telling Nate, that if you weren't a wrestling fan and you were watching that movie, you were drawn to the guy. And maybe some of them decided, hey, let's look this guy up and see what he's doing. Let's watch wrestling. And maybe he drew some fans into the sport. And maybe some of those fans have, followed his life and legacy since that movie.
Yeah, definitely. Well, tell you what, folks, again, Chris Owens is the preeminent Andre the Giant historian. Find him online with Andre the Giant Treasures. We've seen some incredible Andre the Giant treasures from the
Yes.
iconic movie, The Princess Bride. And for that and for your time, Chris, we cannot thank you enough.
Well, thank you guys. I always enjoy it.